What's going on, y'all? Brother Shay here, Restoration Embassy Ambassadors for Christ, New Orleans Revival Center. We're just here to add another volume to our series on Christian apologetics. And today we are going to address the criticism of how some claim that Samson's story was ungodly. So why Samson's story isn't ungodly? Samson is one of the most debated figures in the Bible. Some say his story seems ungodly. He was immoral, vengeful, and often acted on impulse. So how could God choose someone like him? Sounds like some of us, huh? Here's the truth. God doesn't always call the perfect. Samson's life shows that God can use broken people to accomplish his purposes. Even with his flaws, Samson was set apart from birth to begin the deliverance of Israel from the Philistines. His strength wasn't just physical. It was a sign of God's power working through a man, despite his human weakness. Yes, Samson made mistakes. He acted in anger, pursued personal desires, and even broke vows. But his story points to a bigger truth, that God's purposes are higher than human morality. God can take even a flawed, vengeful man and use him to fulfill his plan. In fact, Samson's failures make his victories a testimony of God's grace and strength, not his own. And if you're debating that, how can God use a man like that? Well, how could God use a man or woman like you? Because you've made mistakes. So his story is really inspiring for our hope. So when you read Samson, don't focus on how ungodly he seemed. Focus on how God's power is shown in human weakness, and how even imperfect lives can be used for his glory. So don't do that. A lot of people want to point and say, well, how could God do this in the Bible? How could God do that in the Bible? But a lot of those same stories that you're criticizing, you fall into the category of those stories and those people. You need that same grace, that same mercy. You need that same ability from God to work through you during your weaknesses. So I hope that kind of cleared that up for you all. Until next time, be blessed.